For most games, combat is not a foreign concept. It's typically the most upfront part of a game. I would wager that most games utilize simple combat systems that don't overwhelm the player or overcomplicate the game itself, using common systems to achieve this goal. Other games, however, have much more dynamic combat systems that are broad and complex, being played anywhere from a basic casual way to a more niche specific playstyle. Some of these games go above and beyond with how this combat is implemented, how they tie it into the story of their game, and what significance comes with that. This is what I want to talk about with you today. Though I don't want to talk about just any game, there is one game in particular that I believe does its combat near perfectly, both in integration and in execution, and this game is Everhood is one of my favorite indie games of all time. It was made by Foreign Gnomes, a small studio of only 2 developers, those being game artist Chris Nordgren and programmer Jordi Roca. Everhood is an action-adventure RPG about a small plane of existence known as Everhood, a land occupied by immortal beings who live each day to the fullest. Everhood is colorful, surreal, and often psychedelic, but most importantly, it's full of sound, music being integral to the experience of Everhood. It's how you fight, how you dodge. It is embedded into every aspect of the world. The music is what drew me to this game in the first place. Now, there's way more to Everhood than just the music, so much more. There's a deep story featuring interesting and charismatic characters that you become good friends with along the way. There are hidden messages within the game, leaving things up to your interpretation. All of this and more exists inside of Everhood. I strongly recommend playing the game for yourself before watching this video. Before I touch on Everhood's combat, I want to briefly explain the story. The story of Everhood goes as follows. You, the player, are transported to the immortal realm of Everhood, taking residence inside of a forgotten doll in the woods. Just as you arrive, the doll has its arm stolen. The first half of the game is all about retrieving the arm, meeting the immortals of Everhood, and experiencing their lives as you go along. After retrieving the arm, you receive a new goal. That goal is to free the souls of Everhood. They have lived long past their due dates, the universe itself yearning for them to move on, sending you, as someone with mortality, to kill the residents of this realm. That's the main gist of the story. I'll be referencing and expanding on this later in the video. Everhood, like most ARPGs, has a simple gameplay loop. You progress through the story by walking through the overworld, fighting battles against enemies, and gathering key items. I want to focus on the second part of this. Battles are the bread and butter of Everhood. It's how the characters in the world fight and survive, attacking using musical notes cast through magic, dance moves, or by playing them from an instrument. Each battle featuring a unique track made for the character you are fighting against. I love how the game's soundtrack is utilized here. Instead of music being used as a personality piece during fights, it is basically used as the fight itself. Combat being a dance between 2 partners, you and your enemy. There was a lot of thought put into how combat works here, but before I really dive into that, I think it's best that I explain how battles function in the first place. Battles are basically a combination of a rhythm game and a bullet hell. The notes your enemy uses to attack you with, flying at you from every possible angle, while they're all at least somewhat tied to the song playing overhead. The arena for battles is very similar to games like Rock Band and Guitar Hero, though unlike those games, your goal is to avoid the notes, not hit them. To avoid notes, you move side to side along the 5-lane arena. You can also jump over some notes to avoid them. Being damaged by these notes results in the player's death, causing them to restart the battle over again, or restart from a checkpoint during longer battles. How many hits you can take and how fast your health regenerates between these hits are tied to the game's difficulty. Everhood has 6 main difficulties, those being Story Mode, Easy, Normal, Hard, Expert, and Insane. Story Mode allows you to be hit by 7 notes before dying, allowing you to pretty much glide through battles for the most part. Easy cuts that down to 4 notes. Normal, Hard, and Expert all give you 3 hits before dying, the main differences between them being how fast your health regenerates over time. Insane is a difficulty that is only unlocked after beating the game once, causing you to die after just 1 hit. Battles differ in 2 ways depending on what part of the story you are in. I've broken up the story into 3 main segments. Only 2 of them really matter for this though. During the first segment of the game, you can't fight back during battles, meaning you can only dodge notes to survive. The only real concern here are mass surges of notes and notes that can't be jumped over. These notes display as a wall sticking out of the ground. There are some notes that have unique appearances, typically looking like spirits or skulls. These notes deal double damage if you are hit by one. The second segment of the game allows you to fight back, being able to grab notes that are swung at you. You can grab any note you'd like, with the exception of these colorless notes. These can't be grabbed at all. Grabbing two notes of the same color allows you to throw them back at your opponent to deal damage. The damage is fixed and will not change. That's pretty much it regarding battles. When looking at Everhood's combat, I like to compare it to other games and how their systems work. I really enjoy games that have unique combat systems, stuff that stands out from the rest of the medium of gaming. This is what I enjoyed the most about Everhood's combat. It is exceptionally unique from the rest of the pack, though it does wear a few of its inspirations rather proudly. One game that Everhood definitely drew inspiration from is Undertale. Undertale takes the standard turn-based RPG system and changes a few things. The only thing that really remains about the system is the menu. Otherwise, things like attacking, dodging, and doing actions are all different. Both of these games took existing tropes and molded them into something new. In the case of Everhood, things here feel newer, but the parts of it used are still identifiable, which is something I really enjoy seeing. What I like the absolute most about Everhood's battles can be split into three parts, those being visuals, integration, and function. A broader way of describing those being how the battles are presented and built visually, how they are integrated into the story, both overall and in their respective spaces, and how the battles function on a technical level. I'd like to start by talking about Everhood's best functional battles. What I mean when I say functional battles are battles that teach you something about the game, either in a direct fashion or an indirect one. These can be anything from direct tutorials to battles that introduce new features to you. Everhood has a lot of tutorials, but the way they've been implemented is just awesome. None of these tutorials are boring or unnecessary. They can exist outside of this categorization and are fun to complete on repeat playthroughs. A great example of this are the two frog battles. Frog is an interesting character in that they're pretty much the only thing that we can call a mentor in Everhood, their first appearance being shortly after we arrive in the realm. This first battle from them is a test of our resolve, seeing if we have what it takes to fight other battles inside of Everhood. This battle teaches us the basics of dodging notes and moving in the arena. This battle is very much so the easiest in the entire game. It has one of the simplest note patterns and takes very little time to complete. The music itself and the fun of trying to do things like no-hitting the battle makes it very fun to do on repeat playthroughs before you get deeper into the game. The second of Frog's battles is identical to the first one, but serves the same purpose. It teaches you how to catch and deflect attacks. The same sentiment is applied here. Seeing how optimized you can make your attacks is what allows this battle to continue being enjoyable. One of my favorite sets of tutorial battles in Everhood are those found in the mock D&D game played by the Immortals in Midnight Town. This whole game revolves around the gimmick of deflecting red attacks. The story from the campaign is fun and can be hilarious at times, the actual battles themselves being somewhat complex but outstandingly entertaining. For a minute here during my first playthrough, I even forgot that I was playing Everhood. These little breaks away from traditional battles help the game feel more lively, like there's something more to it all than just this dark space inhabited by these creatures. These battles feeling like they have a purpose outside the story really sticks out to me. Though that's not to say they don't have purpose within the story. None of the battles in Everhood are devoid of story, each one being planted in the game in a way that makes them really stand out. How battles are integrated into the world of Everhood is one of my favorite aspects of Everhood's combat. The basic concept of them is a great place to start. Battles are musical in form and present themselves as extensions of the Immortals. They are representations of themselves and the world itself as you experience it. One battle, in particular, stands out from the rest. This battle is against an immortal known as Orange. They don't actually have a battle, but they do create things that battle for them. The main thing they create is a machine that triggers a quantum battle, this being a battle outside the normal arena using a song that wasn't composed for Everhood. The song's name is Barge by Gunnar Olsen, a track from the YouTube audio library. I love the concept of this fight. It's a battle outside of the rules of battles. one that is false in nature and therefore unexpected by the player. It's a very memorable battle for me, purely for where it sits in the lore of the game. There are a few other battles that I find significant in a similar way, these being bridges between major portions of the game, each representing something different within the story. One of the most significant bridge battles in Everhood is called Post-Mortem. It's a battle that you see early in the game after dying to the incinerator. This battle is a bridge between Everhood and the afterlife. It's a rite of passage of sorts, one that proves your worth to the universe and the beings that inhabit the realm outside of our perception. At least, that's the interpretation I've given it. Post-Mortem is a battle full of interesting visuals and notes. It isn't long, but it is the hardest battle up to this point, though it won't be the hardest for very long. The main feature of this battle is the introduction of Pink, a being of pure energy that floats throughout the battle space. They appear in a couple other bridge battles, occasionally stopping to speak to us. This is an immortal that inhabits the doll with us, though they don't exactly care for this arrangement. This is seen in another bridge battle against Goldpig, this battle being right before we reclaim our arm, the battle before we kill everyone. Pink appears to us in this battle, begging us to stop. They make their hatred of our actions clear, this hatred being strong enough that it permeates through Goldpig's battle, briefly cutting them off from this interaction. I love each and every one of these battles. There are far more than just the three I've mentioned, each being just as important as the last. When or if you play Everhood, please focus on how these battles are built into the game. It's an incredibly significant part of the experience. The last aspect of Everhood's battles I want to discuss are the visuals. Everhood is an incredibly visual game. For the most part, its environments appear somewhat lackluster, being pathways through pure darkness. Though once you come out the other end of the dark, you see these brilliant views. A big part of a battle's personality is expressed through its visuals. Many of my most memorable battles all have insane looking visuals, bending time and space to create a tremendously difficult challenge. A lot of Everhood's difficulty comes more from the visual warping of these battles, rather than the combination of notes being thrown at you. A great example of this is a battle called Gnomes. This is the battle you face directly after Post-Mortem. This battle is trippy. It does absolutely everything possible to mess with your vision, covering the arena with bright moving shapes, vibrating the notes so they appear blurry, turning the entire arena upside down, and so much more. This battle is essentially the turning point for many players. After this, you're either done with Everhood's nonsense or completely hooked by it. There are other battles that go even farther with the visuals, the most insane of which being at the end of the game. There is one, however, that comes a bit earlier into the experience that is, quite frankly, ridiculous. In the Lost Forest, if you play hide and seek and find all of the mushrooms, then you are granted audience with the brown slim mushroom. This battle is the trippiest battle up to this point. The primary thing it does is throw attacks at you while stretching the camera tremendously. This throws off your timing and makes it incredibly hard to avoid notes if you're not careful. I really enjoy stuff like this as it makes me feel encouraged to put time and effort into learning the battles. I can go on and on about how these battles look, but I've already mentioned enough. Before I move on, however, there is one battle that I believe does all three of these things spectacularly, and I want to talk about it as much as I can. This battle is called Reconciliation. Reconciliation is by far my favorite battle in Everhood. It is the second in a string of battles that take you through the very end of the game. As such, it has a huge significance in the story. Reconciliation happens right after we kill Everhood's sun. Not sun, but the literal star that provides the only light that Everhood has, snuffing the realm itself out for good. It begins with you standing in front of a glowing door as a ticking noise counts down to something. This door leads outside of Everhood, into the realm of the afterlife. But for us, this isn't as pleasant as it should be. The door opens and we are swept away into the ether, being welcomed in by the universe itself. Though we aren't here to die, we are here to pay for the deaths of others, to face the consequences of our sins. This fight has some of the best overall visuals of any battle in Everhood. One of the most memorable moments is right here, when the universe splits into a hallway, sending us into the afterlife where the souls of our victims are waiting for us. Once there, the universe flashes images of them, reminding us of the great atrocity we committed. Then we are sent to face them directly. This battle is a bridge between here and there, between life and death. It is the last battle we face as the doll, its physical form being destroyed from the stress of this transition. Reconciliation is long, it's difficult to keep up with, it's a lot of things, and that's what I love the most about it. Out of the big three, the thing it does the weakest is function. What it provides on that count is something that no other battle truly does. In Reconciliation, you can fight back, though your deflected attacks won't go anywhere or do anything. Even when facing the lost souls, the health bars that pop up won't ever go down to 0. Deflecting notes here only serves to create more openings for you to dodge, which is a neat part of the battle itself. At the end of Reconciliation, we see Pink erupt from the doll, splitting themselves from us and begging the souls to understand why we did what we did. This ends the battle, and we are sent to rest in the void. I love this battle, everything it stands for and everything that it is. It's challenging and spectacular, it provides significance to our actions and to the story. I can't think of a better way to kick off the ending to Everhood than with Reconciliation. Before I close, I want to mention some final things about Everhood and its combat that I find to be entertaining. If you played Everhood and loved the battles, but don't want to play the game again to experience those, then you're in luck. There's a battle replay system built into the game. Here you can face every battle the game offers, save for the Quantum Battle and Incinerator. You aren't required to beat these battles first in-game to play them here. You could load up a totally new save file right after buying the game and be able to do any of these battles at any time. The best part about it is that there are leaderboards for each battle, allowing you to earn points during these replays based on your performance. The highest scores being obtained from replays on the highest difficulty. I've spent a relatively considerable amount of time here, replaying battles and going for Everhood's no-hit achievements. That's right, baby, this rat is talking about achievements again. This time they're good though, I swear. For those of you who are masochists like me, there is a huge set of achievements for Everhood where you do each battle without getting hit once. Replaying battles is a great way to practice them and eventually build up to a no-hit run. It's always awesome pulling it off and seeing your score at the end on the leaderboard. Besides those two things, if you're on PC, Everhood actually has one more feature for you battle-loving freaks out there. On the PC version of the game, there is a custom battle creator, where you can download and play custom battles. You can also create your own for others to play this way. The devs even have a pre-installed custom battle for you to see how the whole thing works. As for the rest of Everhood, that'll be up for you to discover. I'd like to close this whole thing out now with some final thoughts. Everhood's battles are its lifeblood. Without them, it would lack a fundamental part of itself, a fundamental part of its message. Everhood stands out to me for many reasons. It's a unique game with lots of heart to it. I might not prefer it over other experiences I've had, but Everhood had a goal, and that goal was accomplished. Everhood's goal is to make you feel, to invoke emotions within the player. At the end of the credits, the devs even ask you to write to them, to tell them how the game made you feel. This is the part of Everhood and its battles that stuck out to me the absolute most. Stuck out to me so much that I decided to make a video about it. I felt so many things that it was hard to even make this video. In the end, out of all of the ideas that I had, I decided to focus on the bits that were most important to me. I hope you all end up playing this game. It might not be as impressive as others, nor as significant, but I'd say it's well worth the experience. Thank you for staying with me through this journey. I know it's not 100% what I was promising during this long lead up to it, but I hope it was entertaining nonetheless. It was, after all, for your own amusement.